Software architecture used to be a closed loop. A system was monolithic, vertically integrated, and entirely self-contained. That self-contained model has been replaced by a sprawling web of external logic. A typical application now pulls in an average of 1,200 decentralized, transitive dependencies, libraries of code maintained by third parties. This density introduces a massive, often invisible attack surface. If a single low-level piece of shared code is compromised, that vulnerability cascades upward, triggering a downstream blast radius that impacts thousands of applications simultaneously. Decentralizing the codebase accelerates development timelines, but it creates a mathematically unstable topology, an architecture so deeply interconnected that threat actors are now actively weaponizing its structure. Protecting this environment requires moving beyond passive patching. To find the source of this fragility, we have to look at how software is resolved, who we trust to write it, and how it is actually built. The primary mathematical driver of this structural instability is known as the diamond dependency problem. Node A requires incompatible versions of Node D via libraries B and C. Resolving this NP-hard math across multi-layered graphs forces infinite processing loops. Ecosystems brute force this, executing either the highest declared node or the newest version, ignoring compatibility. A theoretical workaround is module aliasing, treating different versions of the exact same library as completely unique packages. This requires strict interface-driven backward compatibility just to keep the application functioning. Because standard package managers cannot gracefully handle multi-version resolution, developers find themselves trapped in dependency hell. Faced with a choice between breaking the entire build or running an outdated library, teams routinely choose to leave vulnerable packages unpatched. Threat actors have adapted their strategy to this environment. Instead of hunting for zero-day exploits in the source code, they target the individuals writing it. Over 60% are unpaid. Burnout rates exceed 70%. These developers are prime targets. The XC-utils backdoor illustrates this. Over 2 years, attacker Jia Tan used social pressure to gain write access to a critical library. They bypassed source code entirely, injecting the backdoor directly into the packaged release tarballs. Deep transitive trust is the ecosystem's ultimate vulnerability. Modern supply chain attackers do not bother breaking into secured networks. They acquire credentials, assume trusted identities, and log in. The XZ-utils attack relied on a manual, multi-year subversion strategy. The 2026 threat landscape shifted toward high-velocity, automated contagion. A prominent example occurred when the threat group Team PCP successfully compromised the Bitwarden command line interface. The attackers didn't target Bitwarden's code. Instead, an automated Dependabot routine unwittingly pulled a poisoned Kayak's Docker container directly into the build pipeline. Because it ran during the automated phase, it bypassed human review, extracting developer credentials before compiling finished. The shy haludworm weaponizes these stolen tokens to take this a step further, automatically uploading poisoned versions of every package the compromised developer owns. Continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines were designed to accelerate software delivery. Now, that exact automation has been inverted into a high-speed distribution network for supply chain malware. Defending this architecture requires moving past passive vulnerability scanning. Tools that rely strictly on version matching are highly inaccurate, generating false positive rates as high as 97.5% when checking a software bill of materials. The technical solution to this alert fatigue is reachability analysis. By mapping a dynamic function call graph over the static bill of materials, security tools mathematically prove if vulnerable code is actually executed. This prunes out false positives, isolating exploitable risks so teams can focus on active threats. To defend against build time compromises and tarball injections, organizations must implement the SLSA framework, supply chain levels for software artifacts. The gold standard for this framework is SLSA Level 4. This requires hermetic, reproducible builds that yield cryptographic proof that a compiled binary exactly matches the audited source code, guaranteeing no tampering occurred during the build sequence. Organizations cannot simply patch their way out of dependency hell. They must architect completely deterministic, mathematically verifiable build environments. We are left with a stark dependency paradox, a multi-trillion-dollar digital economy rests on a mathematically brittle, socially exhausted open source foundation. Mitigating this risk requires abandoning vanity metrics like download counts and GitHub stars. Instead, organizations must evaluate project health using the OpenSSF scorecard, analyzing structural metrics like the elephant factor to ensure a critical library isn't dependent on a single overworked individual. The new operational standard is a zero-trust posture for software supply chains. This means pinning strict dependency versions, mandating SLSA Level 4 compliance, and running continuous reachability analysis on every build. Resilience comes from architecting CI/CD ecosystems that anticipate transitive failure and enforce absolute cryptographic build provenance.